that implies that every article in the Washington Post itself is not thoroughly fact-checked. And I think that if you have something on page 1 that says, you know, Hillary Clinton said X, and then you have something on page 26 that said, actually, X is not true, and here are all these reasons. No, that needs to be in the very story that you put the claim in the first place. If you're going to, you're not just a stenographer. Reporters should not be stenographers. They should be able to fact check as they go. You know, again, Twitter, live, do it live.
Yeah, let's do it live.
Yeah.
Someone said that once. I don't know who. I don't remember who it was.
So, Guy, I agree with what you were saying about the democratization of journalism, but one other important point, I think, in that is also diversity in journalism. So, again, going back to how Donald Trump is such a unique, unprecedented candidate, the day that he announced that he wanted to call for a complete and total shutdown on Muslims entering the country, I looked at my newsroom, which I'm very proud to say is extremely diverse. I have 4 or 5 Muslims on my staff, and their parents are all Muslim immigrants who would be affected by this kind of policy were it to ever go into effect. I'm not Muslim myself. My parents are Hindu, and they raised me that way, but they're Indian immigrants who could potentially be affected by a policy like that. I've covered Trump rallies on the road where I was one of 3 brown people there, and I was asked by his supporters if I was Muslim because he sort of ginned up that this is something important. And when, you know, I'm American, I was born in America, raised in America, I'm an American citizen. So I would just love to hear your thoughts on how important diversity is to this particular election year, and if you're up for saying it, how diverse your newsrooms or offices are.
Who wants to start?
That's a lot.
Anyone?
There's a lot going on there.
Our newsroom is fairly diverse. It could be better for sure, but I think it's extremely important, and I think it has a big impact on the range of stories we cover, because people who grew up and having different experiences bring different things to the table, and if we all look exactly alike and we're raised exactly in the same way, that will lead to a very boring slate of stories and not appeal to a lot of readers. So I think it's incredibly important. I have also been at several Trump rallies as a reporter, and I was pretty glad I was white.
It's a thing.
I think it really helped me, and I think it helped me be able to interview supporters and have them be willing to speak to me. And that was, a little sad.
My office is really diverse. I mean, there's like 5 women writers, you know, and then some of color, intersectional. And then, you know, there's a lot. There's two white male conservative writers. We got some liberal ones, you know. There's me. And I think there's a dog, too. Not quite sure. But it's diverse. But it's also diverse in another way, which is it's just not like college-educated people. There's people that, we've got 2 contributors that didn't go to college.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important. We got 2 vets on the staff, too. That served in Afghanistan, and one served in one was a guard and continues to be one in Gitmo. But like, it's a plurality of voices, because I hate any place where like, I mean, I think that's the problem with a lot of media is you get groupthink, you get college educated people that are in the professional class and are very eloquent and things like that. But you know what? Sometimes our best contributions have been from our guy Mike Yard, who just like hustled and did what he had to do, and he has a perspective on things where he's not quite in the tank this way and he's not quite in the tank that way.
Right.
He understands. I mean, and now he's on this like nightly comedy show. It's fucking crazy, but he has a great take on things, and I think that's really important, you know.
Yeah, socioeconomic diversity. I mean, I think we sometimes over-focus on racial diversity. Talk about people's backgrounds and where they're coming from. Intellectual diversity.
The Sibley Friends School is probably very diverse on paper, but like a lot of people come from
It's like
the same
embassy
level.
kids,
Like
right?
super elite kids who don't have like a range of experiences. So I think you're exactly right about that, and that's one thing I like about like our writers come from all different parts of the country, and there's people who are just freelancers who work in the entertainment industry here or work in Nebraska doing like working in a car shop, and they write for us about sports. Like it's. I think that's really important.
I would just say it takes all sorts, and sometimes that might be what's the matter with so many news outlets, is that you're getting it from this kind of like, I mean, pedigreed, pampered class, and that just it kills me sometimes because you're saying people aren't being real. What I think is people, yeah, they're not. But when I sit in my writer's room, those people are definitely being fucking real with me. You know what I mean? Like, they're being very real, and I think that it could be because of some of the, I don't know, sensibilities that you acquire going to some of the best schools in the world, you know? And if I don't believe that Harvard makes mistakes, okay? So I just don't believe that they.
We have Barack Obama's president.
Yeah, Obama, there you go.
You could say, yeah.
That's a cheap shot. It's a cheap shot. Had to do it. Had to do it. It's a joke.
It's good.
Okay.
Mostly.
I want to take that on, actually. There's two things I want to say. One, I don't have a writer's room because I write my show. I take things from people that have a genuine emotion or one way or another. Police officers in this country don't feel like they have a voice. They feel like they've been vilified and demonized. I want to speak out for you. Military in this country feels like they've been vilified, demonized, and forgotten. I'm going to speak out for you. And then I'm also going to speak out for those that like to equate those that might support Donald Trump with being racist. Why someone thinks that people that are so worried about being labeled, and for people that are so offended when they're put in a bracket of people and a group think and saying, oh, well, I don't like Donald Trump because he makes Mexicans feel bad. I don't like Donald Trump because he makes Muslims feel bad. And the same people turn around and say, but I'm glad I was white at a Trump rally because those Trump supporters, they're all racist. So the same people that say that you can't point that are the same people that are labeling other people. You don't get to label an entire group of people racist.
I think that was just an acknowledgement of reality, that she didn't get harassed, and somebody who looks like me is more likely to get harassed in that situation. That's just reality.
Here's, I think, what's important.
Can we talk about the Trump rallies, though? Because I want to talk about the protesters that are outside throwing rocks at police horses. What about them?
That's not right either. That is absolutely not right.
We don't talk about them. We don't talk
Right.
about them. You say, like, I would feel bad, I would feel victimized. You know what? I was outside of a Trump rally, and I was far more scared on the outside of a Trump rally than I was on the inside of a Trump rally.
Look, now this could be considered to have a progressive bent a lot, but we covered when anti-Trump protesters harassed and threw eggs at a Trump supporter
And bloodied,
in Arizona.
bloodied.
We covered that.
And
maybe
it was
we were
physical
one of the few
violence.
people who did.
Why
but
aren't
we
you
did.
talking about it today is what bothers me.
we didn't
That you can
We're
sit
talking
there-
about it right
No,
now.
I'm going to bring it up because it's a problem
That's
for me.
why you're on the
panels
panel.
like this. It's
That's
a
why we're
problem.
all here.
It's people that can sit there and say, like, I've been victimized, I've been victimized. You don't get to sit here and as a moderator panel and say, I've been victimized. I've been victimized outside of a Trump rally for being a young white girl. And I felt nervous walking around for people that hated Trump and feel that he's a racist, that are out to get me. It's not a one-way street to label those that you disagree with, that they must all be racist. You're doing the exact thing that you accuse other people of doing, and I don't appreciate it.
Let me make this point. I think when we look at the Trump phenomenon and all of this vitriol on all sides of this, it's important to take a step back and not to use just a phrase that's perhaps overused, not paint with a broad brush, and take each instance on the merits. So, for example, when Donald Trump said openly, multiple times, that a judge could not do his job because of his ethnic background, to me, that is the definition of a racist statement.
Which Republican Paul Ryan also said.
Right, so like that, and like I'm gonna go and I'm gonna criticize that to the hilt. That does not mean that because Donald Trump will occasionally say things that are racially charged or racist, I don't know what's in his heart. I'm not going to say that he is a racist, and I'm not going to say that people who support him are racist, because obviously there are some. There are racists across American society. There is some support for Donald Trump that is born out of racism. There is some opposition to Donald Trump that is born out of racism. I think let's take their policies, their fitness for office, and debate those things instead of smearing entire groups of supporters. I agree with you on that.
All right, I do want to see how much time we have here. I do want to open this up to audience questions, but I want to do a quick rapid fire bullshit or not round. So I'm just going to say something, you tell me whether you think it's bullshit or not. Free media coverage of Donald Trump. The idea that he's gotten billions of dollars in free coverage.
Bullshit.
I'm confused by the question. Has it happened? Yes.
Do you think it's bullshit?
Oh, of course it's bullshit.
$2 billion demand. You're the ones that are watching. You're the ones that want it. They're making money. They're getting ratings. It's like bullshit that people cover Donald Trump. Well, your ratings are going to go down if you don't. So I don't know how that can be bullshit.
Yeah, he's a major candidate for president, and millions of people voted for him. I think we have to cover him.
Yeah, you have to hold
yeah,
it.
we're not saying we
$2
have to.
billion of free coverage as of several months ago.
The question was cover or not cover.
No, not cover and not cover, but the idea that he's been able to sort of call into cable news shows all the time.
Oh, well,
more than
that's a
other
whole
candidates,
other
like
level.
all
He'll
of
do it on
that.
his own. They ask him.
Jordan, bullshit or not bullshit?
I see it as more as like horse shit. Not exactly bullshit. I feel like, he was great in the WWE. And I feel like people have definitely been, it's more of a reflection of ourselves. We've definitely been like groomed for this candidate. We're just like, that motherfucker was on The Apprentice. I like that guy. And that is why people like him, because he's captivating on camera. And that's it, really. And he says he says racist, horrible things. They're inflammatory if you're Muslim or this or that, And some people like that. And then also we like to keep repeating that he says it, because then you can sell Prolaxa or whatever during the commercial breaks. Which is sad. He's a business model. You know what I mean? He really is a business model. Exactly. I don't know what you said, but
Follow the money. He said follow the money.
follow the money?
Super delegates.
Clinton
Bullshit or
Foundation.
not bullshit? Super delegates was the question.
Super delegates?
Yeah.
Like
Superdelegates.
clothes or?
On
delegates.
this one.
Yeah.
Because the GOP would be like, maybe we should have had some super delegates.
They wish they
I
had
think-
super delegates.
I think probably bullshit.
Yeah, it's bullshit because although she ended up beating him on the merits by millions of actual votes and got the pledged delegates and all that, the majority, it was stacked for her from the very beginning because of those super delegates, and all the counts always from the first day of the campaign was like, oh, insurmountable Bernie, doesn't matter how often you keep winning and beating her, the super delegates, and that does have an effect, a bullshit effect.
It's actually the amplifying effect that free coverage of Donald Trump has.
Yeah.
It's a similar thing.
Alice, super delegates?
I have looked into this and done a lot of interviews about it. I know this sounds like a cop-out, but I really do see both sides on this. I have heard, parties are private clubs and they get to decide their own rules, and they're under a lot of pressure right now to change those rules, and they may respond to that pressure. All these states are now passing resolutions that no matter what the party does, we will not send any more superdelegates, and that's democracy. So I think, the people who think they're bullshit are being loud and proud and could change the system, and that's great.
Tommy, you have an opinion?
I think the Democrats can do whatever they want. Doesn't affect me.
Jordan?
I'm trying to think of what kind of animal poop it is, but I think it's bad because I think it's dookie or doo-doo because it takes the democracy out of democracy. That's like the scariest thing is if the rabble actually picks the person. So they were like 700. Yeah, you already got 700 lined up against you. Sorry, Bernie. It's like the math. Sorry, and that's terrible. That means no matter what you do, that there's this black box that's fixed, and you can't get the people can't. I don't know. I like Bernie. I like how he talks like this, like he's typing on a typewriter. And people responded to him. He's a people's person. He got plenty of people at rallies. You know what I mean? And I think that kind of potential, that power, is terrifying to any organization that needs status quo, that is a party machine.
He also was way behind in the popular vote.
Why are you hitting me with facts right now? I just
All right.
Sorry.
Do we have any audience questions? Can you step up to the microphone so everybody can hear you? I think we have time to take two.
But it could have affected the way people voted. If you think that someone's...
And that is an argument.
If you think the
Like the
majority
drum
of
beat.
people are paying that close attention to superdelegate politics, then I am impressed.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Amanda. Question for you guys. I know how Tommy feels because I'm one of her avid followers. Why is it that radical Muslims can come through, shoot up places, and we blame all the gun owners, but it's not popular to come after the Muslims?
I thought we were talking about Twitter. We're not talking about Twitter?
Yeah,
I'm not talking about Twitter. I'm talking about the
Yeah,
fact
you're talking about actual laws trying to be
I'm
made
exactly.
about. Yes.
I understand.
My family is military. We have guns. so what? Why is it that because
Radical
we had-
Muslims are different from Muslims, though. I think
know,
we all
yes,
agree on
she
that.
said that.
Yeah, she's saying why not go after the actual perpetrator?
I'm not saying that they're not.
Yeah.
There's a huge, huge difference between radical Islamic Muslims,
Yeah.
which everybody's afraid to say, and your actual Muslims. I have friends that are Muslims. I don't fear going out for drinks with them. I don't fear them coming over to my house, nothing. They are my friends. They are radical
But there's an
Muslims.
actual issue here.
So why is it that people, we have a couple of crazy white people go nuts in schools, and all of a sudden every single gun owner has to be under
Has to
scrutiny for
answer
it?
for it. Well, by the way, every single gun owner has to answer for it, even when a terrorist
Exactly.
is the
Exactly.
perpetrator.
Why though?
I actually think, and this is on a couple different issues, particularly on the guns, it's an itch that people want to scratch. And it's an itch that the media wants
There's
to scratch
probably a
because
cream
it's
for that.
left of center, and they want to do gun control, and they're like, here's our chance! And they will ignore all the other parts of this narrative in order to chase that. And I also think it feels like something that could solve the problem. And when you point out to people, hey, he didn't have this gun, or that wouldn't actually solve this problem, or this shooting would still happen again, given all of the rules that you're telling me you're gonna make, it makes them feel better to think they're gonna solve this problem with that measure. And I think the same thing is true when you look at people freaking out about a religious freedom restoration act in Indiana, because it's easier to shut down a pizza place in Indiana and declare victory and pat yourself on the back than it is to deal with actual issues of ISIS and Iran. I honestly think that's part of it. And it's also people who are coming from a good place who are like, we really could make this less possible. When I look at the facts, I say, no, that's actually not what you're doing with these laws. But I think it is something that makes people feel like they're doing something and they want to do it.
It's also the darker side of social media. We talked about social media for news, but also ISIS recruits online, and we never talk about that. We always talk about like, and now this is, not associating you two, but I'm just saying that like.
This is the headline from tonight.
They all
Carlos
recruit
says.
online.
I'm just saying it has a lot of benefits, like tech and everything like that, Silicon Valley and new ways and new media. But it also has, a lot of negatives, obviously, because this is how it's done. This is how people are recruited and seduced into radical Islam. And up until a couple of years, I thought radical Muslims were just Muslims that surfed. I had no idea about that. But to you, I think that's like a cultural war. Like you might not know it about me, but like I was raised around guns, and I was raised like going to ranges and hunting and things like, because I'm from Texas.
It's a given.
Well, yeah, it's not. It is, but I live like in New York now, and people don't know that about me. See, that's what I was like trying to say on this panel is like, you might say like, oh, he works for Comedy Central, so he must be a liberal, or like, but I'm like,
You don't know me.
That's
basically
exactly
the
what you
argument.
have
Yeah.
to fucking say to people.
Yeah.
You don't know me like that.
Yeah.
So, I do feel you, like, as far as like gun culture is concerned, I probably disagree in this particular point, which is, and this is just talking to my vet friends, they say that like, what they used on the streets of like Kabul and Tikrit shouldn't be used in our streets.
Well, they're not.
They're not beside that.
They're not.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
actually
I
illegal
agree
on
with
the
that.
streets,
I was like,
that's just made
I was
up.
like, if you got a problem, light arms, small arms, fine, but I don't think that like an AR is gonna, or whatever the guy was fucking using, I just don't think it'll solve a lot of problems. That as a person that like, I believe in the Second Amendment. It's.
Second Amendment doesn't say what kind of guns and how many you should own. There's not that stipulation upon it.
It said that you had to have the kind where you put in
didn't.
gunpowder.
There's not a musket clause.
There's actually proof that there was a gun made 76 years before the Second Amendment was written that was actually supposed to be a machine gun.
That was a
So,
machine gun? What was
It's
a machine?
supposed to be.
We got to talk after.
Crankshaft.
Oh, you mean a Gatling gun?
All right.
We're actually out of time, but I'd like to at least take one more question. So.
Okay, so you talked about internet trolls, and obviously you experience those in your everyday lives. And recently I've been noticing that a lot of trolls and people that start fake hashtags are, Trump has a troll army. That's basically what I think. And so what's your opinion on like 4chan and on r/the Donald, r/Hillary for prison? How do these people like spawn memes and spawn culture that bleed into our everyday lives? And you think that's really helping Donald Trump? Or, yeah, what's your opinion on that?
Some of it's just
You know
subculture.
you know the army.
Yeah, I'm familiar with them. I've become acquainted with them over the last number of months. I think some of it's just like subculture. People like Trump, they get together. There's places like, basically like meeting areas, virtual meeting areas where they get together and they're going to do things that they think are going to help him, and that's fine. It's completely fine. Hashtag Make America Great Again and do all that. There are some like clearly like fake trolls, and I try to ignore those people. Like not every critic is a troll, right? There's a difference between criticism and trolling. And so I think the best thing to do when you're confronted with actual trolling is to either ignore it completely or troll them back. That's how I approach it. But the idea that Donald Trump is the only candidate with a troll army.
They all have troll armies.
Like no, like you hear from them. You hear from them, the Bernie trolls, the Hillary trolls.
Oh, yes.
There was like a committed group of Rubio trolls.
Woo!
Like I was pretty pro Rubio, but I would do like a little criticism of him on something. They'd be like, Marco, that's not true. I was like, okay.
But how far do you go into like troll land? Do you go like for hours on end going back with these people?
No, usually like my policy during the primaries was I would give myself an hour a week. I'd be like, I'm fighting these people for an hour. So I'd be like, here we go, like rolling up and like, hold my calls, everyone. I'm fighting trolls for 1 hour. And I would fight them like hell and like mock them, and it was really fun. And not just Trump trolls, like all the trolls, just all the fighting in the limbs. And I'm like, for my own sanity, I'm now going to stop and have a glass of wine and go to sleep.
But you said that
I do most
a lot
of
of
my troll
times it
fighting
comes
after
down
the
to ignore it or troll them back. But I think in some circumstances we're really seeing stuff that's crossing the line, doxing, revealing people's personal information online, saying I know where you live, death threats. I mean, we are seeing that a lot.
It's another level.
Yeah, there is definitely a whole other level, and a lot of it is directed at women. Women reporters have gotten it a lot, and so I think it's important to differentiate. But
that's what I mean.
Regular old trolling, I think you're an idiot. That's great. Bring it on.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's what I meant about the good and bad of it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like then you have places where people like say horrible things like that and just spit up bile,
Right. Well,
I usually I put like
a
GIF, like if I don't like somebody, of just like Kermit the Frog drinking tea.
Yes.
And
It's a good one.
people are usually like, wow, that guy just won that argument. That's amazing.
Well, there is an actual capacity to pay people to troll for you. That's a thing that people do.
Some agencies employ
people do
trolls.
this.
Yes.
The Kremlin also does this.
Yes.
The Kremlin is
Yes.
no, like literally the Kremlin does.
But
this.
also America
I
too.
totally believe that.
Not the
That's
American
amazing.
government, I hope. But yes. Yeah.
Putin's like,
All right.
troll them
Maybe
all.
we'll take one more question. Is that
Could they
okay?
be
One more
training
question.
The Trump people.
Oh,
So this panel is about calling bullshit, and the amount of, I just moved back from Britain, and the amount of bullshit that was there over Brexit,
Yes.
incredible.
Yes. R.I.P. United Kingdom.
Sort of the most
Pour one out.
obvious one was the Leave campaign saying that, oh, we send 350 million pounds over every week, when that was sort of proven to be completely false. Compounded with a Leave campaigner who said the British people are tired of listening to experts. And we see the same sort of thing over here of just these lies and straight up untruths that are brought out and accepted by people. And they say, I don't want to listen to the fact check. I don't want to listen to the experts. This says what I want it to say, so I'm going to follow that. Do you think that that has been sort of compounded by the shift of journalism from objectivity to more commenters and punditry? And do you think that we can move away from this distrust of facts and experts?
I don't think there's been a shift, like you said. I think there's just been, a thousand flowers blooming. I mean, there's still plenty of, hard-nosed reporting, but there's the commentary also, and there, it's pick your poison. I guess my question for you is, what do you wish the media in Britain had done in the lead up to this vote that they didn't do?
Make it more obvious to people what the straight facts were without a bias, without saying, we're a liberal organization, here are the liberal viewpoints on it, saying this is actually what happens. The UK sends 350 million pounds a week out, but we get back 150 million pounds in rebates.
Well, but they made those arguments. So, and if you look at the Brexit, now we're going to get in the weeds on Brexit. If you look at the Brexit exit polling,
Brexit exit.
it was a shocking coalition, diverse coalition that voted to leave, including some like very blue-collar, labor-heavy areas. And it was a combination. Like when you had they had major televised debates across BBC and Sky and elsewhere, where there were like Tories and Labour and UKIP on one side, and a diverse coalition, the Conservative government, was against the departure, and they hashed these out over and over and over again. And still, people ultimately decided to leave. And there were demagogic arguments on both sides of that question, as there always will be.
Oh, absolutely. I would agree that the the Remain campaign had nearly as many lies and mistruths as the Leave campaign.
But like, I think having
part of the problem.
big nationally televised debates about an important issue with smart people making the case passionately, like, that's great. Like, I admire what they did over there. Whether you agree with what the vote ended up being, I admire the fact that they said, this is a complicated question, this is a controversial question, we're going to promise to hold a referendum on it. They kept the promise, they debated hard, and then they respected the results. That's awesome.
Let me, and this, go ahead.
I'm done.
I forgot.
I'm done.
I know, I just wanted to let you get your Zoom.
Oh, thank you.
This is like an overarching point that I think touches on a couple things here, is that what you said about people are tired of listening to experts. Now, a lot of people have been anxious to make Brexit and the populism in the US that's associated with Trump exactly the same thing. They're obviously more complicated than that on both sides, and they're not exactly the same thing. But I do think there's this strain of the experts, the intellectuals, the Ivy League educated who put themselves in rooms together and get completely isolated, have betrayed us a lot of times. They have told us many, many times in both countries, we know what's right for you, we're going to do the right thing, don't worry your pretty little head about it. And the people of Britain and the United States, one should not be surprised, of all walks of life, are pretty interested in self-government and think they're pretty damn good at it, no matter what walk of life they're in. So when they get told that for a long time, and people make big promises about the EU, or they make big promises about the economy over here, and those promises are betrayed by the smart people in these rooms, they go, well, why the hell do we need these smart people? And I think that can turn you down a path toward anti-intellectualism, like anti-facts, which is not a good way to go.
No.
But the experts and the intellectuals and the many people in those rooms actually do have broken promises to answer for.
Yep.
And I think that's where a lot of this is coming from on both sides of the
I
pond.
wouldn't say it's, I mean, like, because I just want to be sure that people don't think that, like, you know, it's not that you should trust people that went to Harvard or something like that. It's just that there should be a plurality of voices.
No, that's what I'm saying.
absolutely.
I'm agreeing with you in that I think people look at a lot of the rooms that we sit in DC and that are populated by these folks and go like, you guys have shut yourselves away and talked amongst yourselves for 30 years and it's not doing us any good.
Right.
And you haven't talked to this guy who maybe didn't graduate from college because he didn't graduate from college, but he may actually know what's best for him. So I think there's a...
But unfortunately, the people in Britain, they thought that the money was going to go back into the health program. Then I saw that clip of the guy that was the head of the Leave Party. He was like, JK, guys. I don't know what I was talking about. But, I mean, that sucks that you could, like, sell the entire country on a lie because basically over time what happened was, right, like Cameron and Blair and Thatcher had basically defunded their health program, so they weren't going to get it anyway. And the guy was like, well, we could spend the money on it, maybe, I don't know. You know, and I think that was the problem, was people really believed magically that something would happen.
Maybe there's a lesson to be learned there about government-run healthcare.
I don't know.
So you're telling me that if you like your plan, you can keep it.
Or
right.
we're fucking lying to people.
Thank you to all of our panelists for joining us today. I think this was a great discussion. Really appreciate it. And thank you all for coming. I'm sure we will all continue to call bullshit on Twitter, so if you want to keep the conversation going, we'll be there.
Thanks, guys.
Troll me.
Thank you.
Bring it on. No trolls allowed.
It's yet